afternoon, my lovelies. Because I have a nice girls' weekend coming up. We're recording a little early this week. And I just wanted to keep it super lighthearted and spooky. And I saw this on a TikTok randomly, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna do that one. And it's this movie called, it's from 2014, As Above, So Below. And it takes place in the catacombs of Paris. And so I'm being perfectly honest, when I first picked this movie, this movie doesn't have a based on a true story tagline, so it's kind of cheating for us. But I was like, the catacombs is a very real place, and there are a lot of spooky tales around it. So I was like, close enough. And then in doing the research, I did find out there is a true story that this movie is kind of doing. And I was like, oh shit, it did work. Look at us staying on theme.
Look at God.
Right? Won't he do it? So we can talk about ghosts. Okay. So in true like mid 2000s fucking fashion, this movie is done like a vlog. And
found footage.
Yeah, found footage, shaky cameras. It had its time, but I'm really glad it faded out.
Well, here's my thing. And as I was sitting here watching it, I actually enjoy found footage movies when they're done well. But the way that they did this movie, it's like if you want to do found footage, you have to really make it seem like not only can the footage actually be found by someone at the end of the movie, but you have to make it seem like somebody in the entourage is quite literally getting all of the shots for the entire movie. And this movie failed spectacularly on both accounts. Like there are scenes where you're seeing two different people in two totally different places, or you're seeing them running, and it's like, how would you possibly have managed to do that with like one camera? There's no possible fucking way.
Okay. This is getting a little, this might be more after conversation, but we'll come back to the cameras. You keep that in your mind. Because I was thinking, I got halfway through the movie and I was like, wait a minute. Like, you definitely have to go, wait a damn minute. Like,
yeah, like who's recording this? Like, what? It doesn't make it. That's what makes me so mad at found footage. And you're right. Like in the 2000s, the whole like 2004 to like fucking like 2015.
Blair Witch started it.
And they did it well.
They did it. Oh, they got us with that shit because they had it where people were really like thought that was like found fucking footage, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it's like a whole World of the War
of
the Worlds thing all over again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, like every horror side, they all fucking had to do it after that, and it really did become like a Jesus Christ, I'm getting motion sickness. Please stop. Like,
right. You know what my favorite found footage movie is besides Blair Witch, because again, like it's just the OG. It's a movie on Shudder, and it's called Hell House LLC, and it's about this group of people who go in together to make a haunted house. So they go and they like get use of this property, and they're turning it into a haunted house, and it's done in a way of like a guy's doing like they're doing like actual blogs, like recording for themselves like the daily goings of like fixing up the house and getting the actors and but I 100% believe it was done so well because now that we have like vlogging and like showing your every move on camera and being good at it is so entrenched in everyone's life with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and all of that, that they actually made it feel like you were literally just walking around with these people, and they were like handing cameras off, and like they had other like camera, like it did it so well. The movie, not that great. It's a Shudder original, but it's better than 90% of the other found footage movies out there, and it is a little freaky, which is a lot coming from me because none of these fucking horror movies scare me. I'm sorry. Like, I'm totally desensitized, but Hell House LLC was decently scary, and they really nailed it on the found footage aspect.
Yeah.
So, and I think Shudder is only like $5 a month. Just
I
fucking
might
get it.
have to be like, Jared, if you're getting crunchy, I'm getting Shutter, Danny. You know?
$5 a month. Just fucking get it. Like,
Okay. So okay. See, that we're never gonna start this shit. It took too many hits. All right, I'm gonna start this shit. Okay. I'll hold that question till later. All right, so you start, it's a woman on a bus looking at the craziest old fucking lady, and she's recording herself, and she's like, I'm in Iran. She has like the head wrap. She's like, if they find me, they're gonna kill me, and you know, it's her recording herself, and
right.
like, okay, not supposed to be there. Got it. You're doing something. She's looking for something. And she's talking about being like arrested and stuff. So then you're like, what are you doing? Smuggling
Yeah,
children?
stupid fucking
Like,
white lady.
right. So then she's being like smuggled in. The man shows her like a hole. They're like running through the street. I'm pretty sure it's that bombed a raid was happening. Like bombs were, because obviously this is wartime. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, we
But
can't have a Middle East
also,
movie without, we can't be in the Middle East without it being fucking war.
yeah, it's a war zone. But then also, it's like they're going to arrest you if they find. So it's almost like I couldn't tell if the cops were the bad guys or the good guys.
I didn't
like,
understand that either.
Were they being hunted by the cops, or were the cops just in the street going, "Fucking run! The bombs are coming!"
Right.
And, but they have to hide from the cops. So it was, that part's confusing to me. And but anyway, she's running from the cops at the same time. Her guide or smuggler guy is kind of like, "We gotta fucking go. I got a family." And she's like, "I found it." She finds some scribbles. She's touching things. He's
Yeah,
like,
there's like it's like a big, it's this big statue, big onyx statue with writing
and then
carved
it like
into it.
opens and there's a big cow's head, and she's like, "I fucking found it." He's like, "No, seriously, I'm leaving." And she's like, "I totally understand. You go," you know, which, and he's like, "I'm out." And so the sirens are going. She's trying to like touch, and she's trying to show her camera.
Like every piece of it, every piece of writing.
All the glyphs on, and then she's running because she got all of it scanned, and bombs hit, and she gets like buried and stuff, and you're like, holy shit. Oh yeah, when she's running out of there, she sees a man hanging, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, just
man hanging. Like, and then the bombs drop. She does like dust everywhere. And that's where I brought in the, I hate this way of filming. Like, I'm so tired of feeling nauseous because it's like smoking. And
that's probably the most realistic thing in the whole fucking film as far as the filming goes, because you're running, it's gonna be like
so then it cuts to this same lady now, presumably in like London or some European area, because she's just sitting out chit-chatting. I'm so-and-so, I'm looking for the Sorcerer's Stone, I'm super educated, I know 1,000 languages because my daddy was a scholar. And he asked her something. She's like, we need a translator, because she was talking about the bull and stuff. And she's like, I know a guy. Oh, and
well, no, didn't they go somewhere for, he was like following her, he's making a documentary on her.
Like, she's sitting, so they're talking, and I was, so you think it's a doc, because I figured it was more like she's still on her search, he's just her assistant, and because it's her vlog, he's just essentially her cameraman then. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but she tells somebody later, when they go to the guy, she tells him, oh, he's making a documentary, he's following me. But they never explain, like, why the fuck are you, like, is this like one of those hybrid book publishing houses? Are you paying this guy to make a documentary because you think that it's going to be so, like, why are they making, they never answer.
Yeah, you just know she's after the Sorcerer's Stone, and we get the name Nicholas Flamel dropped in. And so I was like, oh, I know that name, but I didn't know why I knew that name. I just know I knew that name. And I was like, oh, I'm such a history buff. But then later when looking it up, I was like, oh, I watch Harry Potter.
Yeah, because whatever the writing is, it's one of the dead languages that she doesn't read or speak. So then she tells him, "Oh, I know a guy. I know a guy," and he's like, "All right." So then they're walking like down the streets. I think that's when they wind. Is that when they wind up in France, or do they fly there after? I can't remember.
No, because first they gotta go find him. So, and
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it was a quick, because he is in France. So yeah, it was like a quick jump. Like,
Yeah.
now we're in France, and she's
Yeah.
breaking into a church. Or they
Yeah,
go,
literally like breaking in
he's like, what are you doing? But she's like, shh, shh, shh. And just breaking.
Very obviously, whoever this
Which I love
documentarian is,
that.
he does not know anything like at all. She's not told him a lick of nothing.
No.
Like,
And from that, like, first of all, this is one of those, I mean, think like Hunchback of Notre Dame type church, like echoey, Catholic, stone
yeah,
church.
and she's just shoving metal rods into the fucking
everything's
thing.
echoing. Everything's like shh, shh. Like
It
the
doesn't even
nun
sound
across
like
the room didn't fucking hear you.
it doesn't even look like she's not
no.
even like she's not even like she's just breaking the fucking door of this old ass church. She's just
Right?
ramming metal rods into there to get it to open. She didn't even knock. Like, no, hello, nothing. She just, I'm gonna break the fucking lock. And it was at this point where I said to myself, because I don't think I've ever seen this movie before. It gets raved a lot on like within horror circles, but it never appealed to me. Like watching the trailers and stuff, I was just never like, I was like, I don't think so. And I was totally right about this movie, every thought that I had going in. But it was at this point to where I said to myself, this is a white woman who has never allowed anyone to tell her no in her entire life. And I viscerally hate her. I hate people who do not accept a no. And I hate the way that Hollywood always frames this as like, oh, look, she's so stubborn. And he never accepts no for an answer. And because of that, he's got all of this stuff. He's wealthy and he's got all the chicks and he did it. Like, no, stop romanticizing these people who refuse to be told no, because it just makes me want to throat punch them. Be like, oh, okay, sure. Like, I want to deliver karma to them real fast and in a hurry. Like,
yeah. So it took me a little longer to get there, but I have that note down there somewhere. Fucking white women. Because she for sure is the epitome of like just white feminist.
And it makes it worse that
she's poster child.
Like she's like an archaeologist or whatever. And if you think about the history of white archaeologists coming into predominantly non-white areas and literally just stealing their shit, the whole thing, I was like my and then when it finally shows the cameraman, it doesn't show him for like 45 minutes into the movie, and he's a black man. It's just like my hackles, my fucking shoulders were up to my ears. I was just like, I hate you. I hate you so much. You are the worst.
Okay, let's get there. But yes. All right. So she breaks him in the loudest fucking way, goes upstairs and finds her dude. In which I want to say, I've always loved this actor. I don't know his fucking name, but I really like him in almost everything he does.
See, I saw his face and I was like, huh, I recognize him. And then I said to myself, he kind of just looks like every other nondescript, mediocre white man. So maybe not, but maybe I have seen him before. I almost looked him up and I was like, you know what? I'd rather just read my fan fiction.
So, and he's like, no, fuck you. Oh, by the way, why he's in the spot, he likes to break into historical sites and fix things. So he's fixing the bell tower.
Chaotic good.
Yeah. And so she's like, I need help. And he's like, fuck you. You got me locked up in a Turkish prison. She was like, jail.
Like, yeah, there's Turkey? A distinction between a jail and a prison. Hello.
And she's like, and then they go into all the like cryptic talk of I found this, and he ends up fixing the clock or the bell and the clock, and they run outside to hear the bells and stuff. And I was like, it is a really cool moment. Like if you think, I'm sure it wasn't real, obviously, but the people walking in the street, he's like, look at them. They haven't heard this bell ring in like 200 years or something like that. I was like, that is actually like a really cool moment. That would be like a awesome real.
That's true chaotic good.
Yeah. Like
Which
that would be just magical.
she just drug him into this fucking mess.
Oh my god.
Okay, so yeah, he was in Cloverfield, and he was in Friday the 13th, the one from 2009. He was in Mad Men, The Mindy Project, Drop Dead Diva. After he did As Above, So Below.
Not so great.
Not so great.
His career
he did play Mike Pence in the Kellyanne Conway Story, and he was in Silicon Valley in Superstore. So he's done.
Oh yeah, he was in Superstore,
but not. I'm so sorry, Ben Feldman, that this.
All right. So his name is George. Okay. So Super White Woman Scarlet. Benji is her cameraman. George is a bell tower boy, willing to translate for her, but he's like, I'm not going any fucking deeper than that. So I'll go to the museum with you. We'll look at these letters together, and then I'm fucking out.
Yeah, they had some kind of intimate relationship of some kind.
Oh yeah, they've known.
I assume it has to do with her inability to accept the word no. I'm just gonna assume that about her entire life.
She abandoned him in Turkey.
Yeah, she abandoned him in jail.
So yeah, she's one of those super fun to be around until you get burned people. And so
go to the museum.
This is where it turns into almost like I was like, oh, so it's like the dark national treasure. It's like, oh, national treasure, but spooky. Because this is where they're like, we're going to go over here. Turn it around. Rub some rubbing alcohol on it. Secret message. And I was like, oh, this is so much fun. I do love a good treasure.
I did enjoy. So when they get up to the slab, they're like translating it and it's not really making sense. And then she sees a depiction of a guy on it with like a key on his back. So that's why she determines, oh, it's got to be on the back of this thing. And I did enjoy him and Benji totally flipping their shit and being like, no, you can't take this off the fucking wall. Yeah. We're in a museum. There's zero security guards anywhere. They are able to just fully lift off of this totally irreplaceable slab.
That's supposed to be like 3,000 years old.
And pour a bunch of chemicals on it and then light it on fire. And nobody notices. They don't remove it from the building. They don't go in the bathroom. They don't go in a closet. Right on the bench. In front of a hallway where anyone could look down and be like, there's a bunch of nails sticking out of there. Like, where's the thing? But yeah, that gives them the code. So then they take a bunch of pictures of it and skedaddle outside and start comparing the slab and the secret message with what she saw on the big statue.
And then they're like, it's the fucking catacombs.
Yeah, it said something about how you had to get the stone, you had to go like so far underground, and it was like hundreds of miles, and they were like, how are we gonna do this? And then they were like, oh, we're in Paris. What a coinky dink. There's shit all over under here.
Right. And so then they go take the tour, and they kind of figure out that where they need to go is one of the off-limit areas, because you can't go everywhere in the catacombs. So
because it's fucking dangerous.
Very dangerous. So then they're at a nightclub type scene, and she's like, it's another I know a guy situation. Why? When they do this scene, it's like the camera walks up to this woman face to face, and she just like keeps walking by, and he's like watching her, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to remember that face at some point. Never
and nobody in this whole nightclub was like,
who promised their girlfriend a scene in the movie? Because this was like, why?
Right. And like, who you're telling me nobody in this entire nightclub in the early 10s was like, hey yo, why you got a whole ass camera? Hello.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be one of those like back room nightclubs, so I'm pretty sure dude, put the fucking camera down.
How do you even get past the doorman? How'd you get past the bouncer with the whole ass fucking, I'm talking like the big ass.
I feel like we can write that the perspective is so off.
so odd.
The perspective is if I have a GoPro
Yeah.
to the forehead.
That's exactly what I was
His
thinking.
camera's a shoulder camera. So I'm just like, you're not dedicating yourself to the craft, sir.
No.
So anyways, they find the dude who knows the catacombs. His name's Papillon, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna fucking help you. And she's like, I know something really cool. And he's like, probably don't. And she's like, I think it is pretty cool. And then he's like, okay, I'll help you. And you end up outside the next day. They're loading up the van, and you have Papillon, and they show he has burns. You have Zed, who's just the young guy, and I feel like I heard her name 50-11 different times, like Sulky or Silky, but he also called her Banshee when he first introduced her.
Yeah.
She's the female in the group.
It's a really French name, so there's no way I could pronounce it.
Yeah. So, and they're all pretty much just kind of interviewing, like saying it's super dangerous. The Scarlet and Papillon are comparing maps and where they need to go. And George is like, oh, you guys are packing? That's awesome. I'm gonna head out. And Scarlet's like, no, you're not. Like, she literally, no, you're not. And
and he's like, I don't go underground. Whatever has happened to him before, he doesn't want to go underground. And like, she just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. Oh,
yeah. And can I say, pushing in a way that never once looks at this man in the eye and goes, look, this was my father's life. Can you please help me? Never once one of those. It's always no, you're staying. No, he's coming. Just completely not even acknowledging him in any point. Just, no, he's coming. Anytime he was like, okay, well, I'm out, guys. No, he's coming. And
in none of the languages that she speaks, none of them does she know the word please. No. None of the languages does she know that word at all.
Oh, no. So, but I will say, George, at some point, you gotta just keep walking, bro, because he ends up following them around.
What's with her? She's not even that hot.
I know.
She's that. What?
So he ends up following them all the way to the entrance, and he's like, no, now seriously, I'm out. Because even the entrance is literally under a bridge, this tiny little hole under a bridge. And I was like, oh, fuck, no. What kind of human are you to see a small crevice in the ground and go, let me crawl into that? Let me go see what's under there. No, never in my life. No. Like, so
he ends up saying yes eventually, and they all
no. The funniest scene I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so they're officially being like, okay, are you going? Get in the hole. And George's like, no, I'm not going. Papillon's like, I don't give a fuck what's happening. Get in the fucking hole or run. Oh, yeah. And Scarlet's like, no, you're coming. And then out of nowhere, this cop just fucking flies in and tackles Papillon. Like this man, the level he had to have hit him, because you only see it from like Papillon's perspective, like pretty much being like whoosh, and his camera going like, and all you see is this black flash hit, and you just know that cop was like, like just running down that tunnel.
He takes
like,
his 9:00
o'clock, or you go.
Yeah, he takes his job, his post very seriously. Oh, which honestly God. I understand.
So then obviously it's like, get in the fucking hole, because the cop is here. So then it's more running chaos, because you're on their forehead again. They're non-existent forehead cameras. And so they get in the hole, and George and the dude's like throwing gas bombs. And
yes.
So, he's like, and in my mind I was like, okay, hear me out now. Logistically, the whole cavern's getting gas, right? Not just
right.
There's no
you can't contain
coming.
It. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing right now? That's not.
He's gassing the rats. He's gassing
tunnel,
everything.
Guys. It's a cavern. So what are we all gonna stand there going?
Yeah, blowing it out. But they outrun it. They get away.
They outrun it
somehow,
Happy
defying the laws of physics.
I did that shit. No Popo got me. And George is like, fuck everything. Like, he is just like, I don't want to be here. I know. Get me the fuck out of this cave. And she's like, shh, shh, shh. Just put the lamp on. Shush, 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 George. Don't go stand over there. Like, once again, not actually. And then camera guy is like, what's his issue with tunnels? And she's like, oh, his little brother drowned in a tunnel. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, like pushes off like that means absolutely nothing.
I know.
This, I swear to God,
so
main
George
character energy.
Oh yeah, George is in PTSD mode hard, and so, but everyone else is like, carry on, and here we go. So they start walking down the tunnels, and pretty quickly you start hearing, oh no, he's walking out. First he finds candles, and he's like, ooh, hot candles. Other people are down here. And then you start hearing the singing, and then they see this crack in the wall, and the just naked lady singing. And they're like, you get all types down here.
Yeah, we never come back to that at all. It's just and they like look at them?
No. Like, which is even weirder because I more noted like, and they don't even react. The bitch is just down there singing and not even reacting to people walking by at all. So they get to a point where they he's like, okay, we gotta crawl through this sea of bones into this tiny hole. And everyone's like, no, fuck that. How about we go through that area right there? It's like a door.
But it's like rocked up. Like they have to remove the rock.
We can kick those in and we'll just go through there and it'll be faster. And he's like, telling you,
without knowing, like there's
she's like, my map says it's faster. He's like, if the map worked, you wouldn't fucking need me. That's a no-no hole. We had a friend go in there. And he never fucking came back. It's been 2 years. Ain't never seen that motherfucker again. We're not going down there. We're going this way. Fuck that hole. So they eventually are like, okay. So they go up and they're like, oh, it's not that bad. And they're crawling.
Crawling on top. I don't understand this. They're literally army crawling on top of bones. Nobody thought for a second to just be like, get the bones out of the way. Like, pass them down the line. Clear out. You know how uncomfortable that would be to be army crawling on top, and they would be breaking. They wouldn't stay in one piece. They would be breaking. You can have bones into your bones.
You fuck up because those things are so old. You're probably just cracking them bitches.
Totally dehydrated.
Yeah.
Totally. And they crack into slivers.
Yeah. You're just stabbing the fuck out of yourself. Like,
that's what it makes
yourself over ice.
Get the bones out of the way.
So in there, the guy starts having a panic attack. The cameraman guy,
because he's a bigger dude. All the other ones are like skinny.
Real tiny for him.
Yeah, he's a bigger dude, and he gets like stuck in the hole, and he's just screaming. And this pisses me off so bad. Scarlett is just yelling back at him like, you gotta calm down, you just gotta breathe, you're okay. Like, the last thing that you say to anyone having a panic attack, especially if they're having a panic attack while they are encased in like concrete, is just calm down. Like, no, bitch, I'm gonna rip your throat out when I get out of this fucking hole.
Well, I'm sure he wants to, because he was like, nope, we're done. And she's like, no, we're not done. We're going through the tiny hole.
And he couldn't, he tried to get back, and then he was he was like, stuck so bad.
Pull back, diggy dig, go forward. And so they all go forward and they get through, and but it starts collapsing. And so they can't get back through, like, once they get over. And
he ends up like throwing the camera at her and being like, just go, like, just get away from me. But they end up pulling him out. But yeah, they can't, obviously they can't get back through that way. And I think this is where they start to hear the phone.
Yes, but my phone auto-corrected me so hard, I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. Because I said, oh shit, it's collapsing. Oh, it was a circle. Oh, they end up in a huge fight because once they're like, oh, it's collapsing, oh, get out, they look around and they're right back next to the no hole. And they're like, you took us in a fucking circle. We should have just went that. And the one guy's like, I fucking almost died, like in his mind, because he had a panic attack, and he was just like, and I didn't even know. And the guy's like, I'm telling you, that's not a circle. That's never been a circle. We need to fucking go. And they're like, but then what does she do? Nope, we're not going. Nope, don't even worry about what just happened. Let's just keep going forward down the no hole. That's our only option, guys. We can't leave. Well, I guess because now it did collapse.
Well, so if we ignore how this is obviously supposed to be like the caverns are wanting to keep them, like the caverns are wanting to shut them out type. If we ignore the whole like staircase at Hogwarts moving on its own aspect that they're trying to paint here, if they wound up right back where they started, they could go out the way they came in.
The exit should be right there.
Right, the exit is literally right there. You just have to dip and weave and Reggie Bush the cops, and like you done it once. So
but they're more going down when these staircase moved, don't think about that, or just
ignore it. Ignore all the
passage didn't make it,
all the common sense.
Where only so we have the no hole because the tiny hole collapsed. And so they're kind of like, at first they're like, fuck, I don't think but then they eventually do it. And then they end up walking down, and the guy notices the street signs, because it does have like little, tell you what streets are like under and stuff. He sees the street sign for, and this is gonna sound terrible, Barrière de Enfer. And it's supposed to be like the gate to death or something like that. But anyways, he talks about how, oh, this is where the city collapsed and 100 people died. And the one guy goes, yeah, then the 50 men who went in to fix it disappeared. And I wrote that down for later.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate you letting us all know. That would be my thought if I was in this group. Thank you. There's nothing you could have said that would make me happier than what you just said in this moment. I swear to God, everybody in this fucking movie, except for Benji and what's his name, George or whatever, throat punch. Immediate throat punch.
Oh, and also there has been a phone ringing the whole time, like since they got into.
Right. I think they kind of just ignored it at first, or they didn't realize.
Like, so what happens is at first they're like, is that a fucking phone? And then they that's when he sees the street. So it's like they got distracted. Like, is that a phone? Oh, a street sign. And then it's like, oh, we're having, oh yeah, the phone is ringing, and the phone's ringing again, and it's getting louder. Oh, and he finds a piano, and he's like, this looks just like the piano from my house, and we only knew how to play one song, but we could never finish it because the key was always broken. And he starts to play it, and that key is broken. You're like, what is his
piano? Hello.
And then
they start asking about the phone, and one of the French dudes is like, yeah, the phone company used to run their wires under here.
He's like, there's no way, because they took them out 50 years ago, but he's like, but they were here. And then the ringing happens, and Scarlett just fucking starts running, and they're like, fucking, what are you doing? And this is where I literally went, fucking white women. Like,
head towards it, immediately towards it.
Not even think of nobody else around you, just fucking run for it. So she ends up answering the phone, and all you hear is like creepy moaning and stuff, and like,
well, it says
words, kind of hearing words.
Well, it says it's a dude on the phone, and he says something. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he asks her a question. He says her name, and it's like an older like one of the stand-up phones where you have to like, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, who is this? And he just keeps saying something to her about something that we're supposed to know relates to her, but that doesn't really make any sense. But he keeps saying her name, and I think George is like, hang up the phone. Why are you answering this fucking phone?
Yeah. I literally wrote down, y'all better abandon Scarlett, damn white woman.
Yeah, just get. Oh, jeez.
So then all of a sudden, out of a corner walks a man, and they're like, fuck, it's a person. And then they're like, is that? And he had a French name, but the guy said his English version would be Mole. They called him Mole because he like lived in the catacombs and then disappeared.
Finally. He was the guy that went through the no-no hole.
Yeah. He went through the no-no hole because curiosity got the best of him.
Yeah.
So now he's like back and he's bit out of it. And I'd be like, let's not talk to Mole.
Yeah. Mole they start trying to talk to him and they're like, where have you been? And he's like, you left me.
Yeah, he's like, you didn't even look for me.
Yeah. And they're all like, oh, it's been 2 years. Oh my God, I can't believe you're here. And like nobody is addressing the fact that this man is standing in front of you going, bitch.
Right? Yeah. This is your fault.
We were friends.
Right? I'm like, you guys aren't listeners in this movie. That wasn't part of the
script. Nobody listens to anything.
Nobody, there's no like speak and response happening. It's just speak. Like just people talking past each other the whole time. So he comes out, he's been missing 2 years, but he's like, fucking follow me, guys. I know how to get out of here. And there's like,
yeah, let's trust that guy.
And I'm like, yeah, let's trust the fucking zombie. First of all, okay, no, let me get a little bit, and then we'll first of all. Okay. Yeah. So he's like, hey, yeah, follow me. And they're like, yep, let's follow the zombie guy. Let's do that. And then
he's been living on rats. raw rats in the catacombs.
Benji, I think that's Benji, the camera guy. Yeah. I was like, he just getting fucked up. Like, yeah, I don't remember all the ways of getting fucked up, but he got hurt.
Well, when they pulled him through the hole, he was fucked up. He had like scratches.
And then he got like hit again. Like every time a fall happens, every time a scare happens, poor Benji's getting the brunt of whatever the fuck is happening around them.
Beat up the black man.
The only black character in this movie. I'm just saying. Like, and
wasn't one of the Frenchmen? Wasn't he like mixed? One of the Frenchmen.
Well, that's like Zed is a man of color, but you can't call Zed a black man, but he is a man of color. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Oh, his the actor's name is Ali. I can't say this. Ali M. So he's definitely he's not black, but he's definitely not a white dude. At least not 100% white.
Yeah. So I was for sure like, like, wow, that's just
peak 2000s.
Yeah, very
it's
much.
Put black people in movies, and that's all they're there for.
Yeah. So then he ends up dropping, which this was another thing. Okay, this is when I started questioning the whole camera situation. Okay, and where it really made me go, wait a damn minute. Okay, so he drops what I thought was the camera into the water, but then I'm like, but if the camera's in the water, then how are we seeing everybody right now? He has to be holding a camera, but it's a speaker and it's changing. They can hear the echoes in themselves and the water. And it starts making a crazy ass sound, and they have to start running and stuff. But I was just like, apart from me realizing that nobody else has a camera, like the whole time in my mind, I'm going, oh,
one camera.
GoPros. No. In my mind, I'm like, they have GoPro, but that's not. No. They have lamps on their head. And what I'm assuming what he dropped was a speaker or a mic. They must be mic'd up. But it's supposed to be the Benji has the camera. The camera. And it did make me go, well, no, wait a minute. Then how are we just having everyone's fucking forehead perspective? Like, so this did make me go, am I just not understanding the science here? Where I was like,
they just fucked up
sometimes.
So. No, they just fucked up. The whole idea, the one main idea you had in this movie was for it to be found footage, and you fucked it up.
Yeah, they got real lazy with it. They really only use like found footage for the action scenes, and everything else is like regular camera.
Yeah, and I think they're like they're going through what's essentially like a water channel. So they start to walk through it, and somehow it escapes all of them as they're being led through this small corridor that underneath them is water. I don't know how they miss this, but none of them realize it until George walks into the water, and he's like 3 people back. and he's the only one that walks into the water. The rest, and then at that point, Scarlet is behind him. At that point, she turns and she stands on the little ledge next to the wall. But the water is it's. Are they all Jesus? How is he the only one being like 3 people deep in this row of people that's just now falling into the water? What are you talking about?
I just took it as like maybe he, like everyone else did kind of know, and how we're walking wide-legged, and he's just
Scarlet wasn't.
That's George, and he just
fell down. But
yeah,
then when like, he falls,
misstepped.
When he falls into the water,
yeah. But I will say this does become one of my, I won't say, I guess say favorite of this movie, one of their better scenes.
Right.
I was like, oh, that was pretty good, guys. That was pretty. You got me.
Yeah, because he falls into the water.
Yeah, so the mic is in the water, so you're hearing this scene like you're underwater. But there's also like other sounds and screeching happening and getting louder.
Well, no, first it sounds like everything's underwater, and then it's like one of those white noise sounds that Hollywood likes to use to indicate that everyone has gone deaf. It's like they assume that all deaf or partially deaf people constantly have like tinnitus, so they're just hearing like and everyone in there suddenly can't hear anything because one of them says, I can't hear you, and they're trying to talk. And so it's not just that like the mic falls in the water, it's like suddenly this entire encasement in the catacombs is like that has like deafeners on, and then something like screechy comes out and they all like fall over and they're like, ah, they do that super dramatic thing that they do where they start screaming their head off with their hands on their head, and then they start taking off running, and then we forget about the water below them again as they are running fast as hell.
No, that ended. It was only like a couple feet of water. That's all they needed, and then it's back to dusty again.
How do you say that? Continuality, the way that they continue things in this movie makes zero sense.
Oh yeah. Everything is very like, they really picked different like scenes, you know? Like it's very like this scene.
It's like they tried to go for supernatural angle of like, oh, catacombs are moving around them, but they didn't actually go fully there. They just kind of assumed that any mistake that they made, we would know. It was the catacombs being magic.
Yeah.
And none of the characters say anything about this outside of when they first wound up in the other room on accident. None of them notice the continuity. That's the word, continuity errors of any of this.
Walking down hallways.
It's normal.
Also, you get a random ghost child, which I was like, love it. Why not toss in the random ghost child? Hasn't been a ghost movie really yet, but you know what? Ghost kid, let's do it.
I guess.
Toss him in there. You gotta. It's creepy. Like, so then they do, so I was like, oh, random ghost kid. And then they get to a point where they're like, should we keep going? And of course,
where the fuck you gonna go now? You're so deep in there.
But then it's like, oh, because Mole leaves them to like a hole. And he's like, you gotta go fucking down. And they're like, no. And
it's like covered up with slats.
Yeah.
Like
and then this is where Benji goes after, well, Benji gets pissed at Mole because Benji's like, look, I've been fucked up, I've been kicked around, I'm not going down a fucking hole, and you led me to a fucking hole, I'm gonna kill you. And this is the part where I was just like, so wait a damn minute. Mole is a man who's been missing for 2 years in the catacombs, okay? So, supernatural case scenario, he's a fucking zombie ghost thing. Why are we trusting him? Other case scenario, he's still human, that is still Mole. Mole's lost his mind, guys.
Yeah, Mole's
trust the man who has been stuck in darkness by himself for that's literal war torture, okay?
Eating live rats
would
and shitting in a corner.
Oh yeah, you would be so broken. That is not the person that when the team goes, hey, where are we going? We go, let's listen to that guy. No.
This is
No,
not a
no.
Bruno situation where he was
No.
still eating and he still had access to light. Okay,
Right?
this is a Hills
And
Have
where he was
Eyes.
like being social at night and shit. Like he
Yeah,
was
this
coming
is
out.
not.
There was no like, but there was
It's
just
not
like,
this.
okay, guys, why? So Benji's pissed at him, and I'm like, you can't be mad at him. Dude's crazy. Like, come on, man. Why
You
would we
be
follow
mad at
him
the
for
white
first?
woman.
Right?
Won't someone
Exactly.
please get mad at the white woman?
Right? Because they're
Please.
not at all. Don't worry. And she's like, yep, let's jump down the hole. We're jumping down. Let's go. Uh, so they have a conversation about Golder. Oh, they get to a point in the tunnel, so they do go down the hole. They have a little snafu where like Benji lands on George, and but then
Doesn't he fuck his hands up?
well, he does. Oh yeah,
Isn't this
he
where the
cuts up
rope
his hands because
fucks his hands up?
something happened with his rope and he came sliding down. He was trying to stop himself, and but
Yeah.
George was stuck. He
And
couldn't go down.
this is not
Benji
the
kind of
appropriate rope for any kind of caving at all. I don't know who brought this with them, but whoever it was, this was not the appropriate rope. And I also want to know how much fucking rope and carabiners do they have on their body? Because this
Just
is not
about
the
to
first.
say that shit because they never recollect them.
This is not the only hole that they wind up going down with these
No.
same fucking ropes. Who
Yep.
packed this? Who was
Yep.
it? Because I'm willing to bet it was the white lady, and that's why she picked the wrong fucking ropes.
Well, no, you do got to remember Papillon and his team packed all the bags because they talked about when they were at the
That's
band
true.
how important it is to have the food, how important it is to have the water.
That's true.
Because it was pretty much like lose your lamp, die. Lose your food, you're dying.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still idiots. Stupid idiots.
So then, so they're running down. They're finding marks now, so they're kind of like, oh, ooh, it's riddle time. And they get to a point in the riddle where they're like, okay, so we need to pick a rock to move, but if it's the wrong rock, we're all gonna die. And so then they're
because
like,
they
okay,
run
well,
it, and it's like this stack of rocks, and it's extending up into the ceiling in like an
yeah.
arch. So it's like quite literally deadly Jenga. If you pull the
Yeah.
wrong one, the
So
whole
they have to
fucking
figure out
place.
the riddle. So they are having a moment of like, she's like, okay, so there was 6 planets this time. He's like, wait, was it before or after Galileo? And she's like, before, definitely. And he's like, okay, well then
The moon.
Earth, yeah,
They counted the moon
and
as
the
a planet.
sun, and the Earth was the center, so Earth wasn't a planet. Earth is just us.
Earth. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like, okay, so 7. And they're like, Papillon's like, no, but are you sure? Because you need to talk about this a little bit more because fucking don't kill me. So it's a very tense moment of like, and they do it. And then secret tunnel through the catacombs. And they go crawling down the secret tunnel. And they find a perfectly dead, like, Knights of Templar.
Yeah.
It was just like, why is he a knight? Like,
I mean, yeah, I get it. As far as the whole where the stone was said to have, the time period where it was said to have originated from, yeah, being a Knights Templar does make sense. But it's like, that leads me to more questions because the tism where I'm like, okay, there's no way this is just a random knight. Like, who was he?
All of so many little just tidbits of history or where and just stuck them in.
They shoved in as many as they could.
Like, I swear they pull one of the things is like a Greek mythology. Then they have the Fleming history, and then they're about to find the Egyptian hieroglyphs. So you're like, what? I thought we were with Greece, and this is
why?
This would be like,
why is there Knights Templar?
And then you have it's also, remember, the dead, like, Iranian language. This is why George is here, because he's the only one that can read the dead Iranian language. And I'm like, are they trying to say Illuminati? Is that what we're going with? Because they were just everywhere, But
that wouldn't even make sense for the time frame that this would have supposedly been created. The Illuminati didn't exist yet. So it's like, And, like, again, who is this knight? Because there's no way if they were leaving a knight to watch over it for all eternity that they would just leave a random fucking foot soldier. So
Yeah.
but they never explain
No.
anything.
Other than that, like the knight is like perfectly preserved,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be like a 3,000-year-old knight, like a body, and they're like, it's the fucking stone that preserves things, and the people are like, cool, and Benji's like, he literally goes, that's creepy, and I'm just like, you have to be regretting everything you've ever chosen.
This
Like, you
poor
can just tell
man.
he's so fucking tired
That's
of
why I
being
wanna
in
know.
this room at all. Like,
That's why I wish they would have given some context as to why he was there at all, because if this really was a pay to play for as a documentary service, like, this man,
yeah,
there's you could not have paid him enough. There's not enough money
right.
on the planet to have
He's
drug
so
him
fucking
through
done.
here.
He's like, are we there yet? Because fucking Christ with this place.
Right,
So now she's having to like look around this room, find another. I think this is where she's like, turn off your headlamps. Because they're supposed, she's reading the wall. She's like, we're looking for a light, turn off your headlamps. And
right.
Benji's like, fuck no. And she's like, just do it. And she does end up seeing a light underwater. There's like a little, it looks like it was a staircase, but it's flooded now. So
Right.
she's like, we gotta go down. And they're like, down again? No. And she's like, we're going down. And she just dives in. She just, like,
Right.
no questions. And she comes up to the room and she looks to her right, and there's a huge pile of gold. And she looks forward, and this is where we see the now Egyptian tablet that's
Right.
been left with an Egyptian myth. And so
Yeah,
they
the
all kind of
sun.
like one by one start going in. And I forgot to add in here. So George is pissed at her like the entire movie because one, he didn't want to be involved, and he's already been pissy with her. And the whole time she's like, hey, George. And he's just like, fuck you. Like, but
Yeah.
this moment where she just dives in, he's like, move everybody, I gotta go save her dumbass. Like, he
Right.
cannot
This
help
is
but put his life
totally
on the
normal.
line for someone who is not even thinking about him in any way at all. So until it's convenient for her. Once it's convenient for her, then she's the love of his life. So they all get into the room, and the tour guides are like, fuck yeah, gold. And she's over telling the story to George, and she picks out the stone, and she's like, a room full of gold, and you'll be a fool because you'll miss the true treasure. And then she goes, oh shit, it's a trap. But by then she's like, stop, but it's too late. They've ripped the door off, and they've caused a trap, which causes another collapse.
And
And
apparently they had all taken their backpacks off of themselves while they
yeah,
were digging this treasure out. They
yeah.
removed everything. So
So
then the
now,
shit collapses.
yeah, so now, okay, so everything's settling, and they're kind of like, who's here? And it's Mole is gone. Mole didn't make it. Dang it, Mole. And then the girl, and they dig out the girl, and her arm is hurt. And this is where she uses the stone to heal her arm. And you're just like, fucking found it. Holy shit. So then
No, I just had a thought. Because when I watched it, I didn't pick up that they were calling him Mole. Like the subtitles were just using
his French name.
his French name. So I didn't pick up that they were calling him Mole. But do you know about the mole people in The Sims?
I know about the mole people in real life. Is it like
Okay.
that?
No, well, so there's this thing that the Sims community does where a certain subset of the Sims community, especially the ones who watch the YouTuber My Name is Kevin, favorite YouTuber of all time, 100% watch anything that he produces ever. When he plays the Sims, he literally, when he doesn't want a character there, or when he is just married and brought a character into his household for their money or to steal their house, he will wall them up. He will take an existing wall, and then he will get them to stand over next to it and then put another wall. So they are the mole people inside of the wall in the Sims. And this is not an abnormal thing for people to do in The Sims. Sometimes the
I do
mole
that.
will
I do
have
that.
like, Yeah,
I didn't
sometimes
know
the
they had
mole
a name.
people yeah, sometimes the mole people have like their own stuff to do. Like you'll make them paint to get
Yeah,
money.
they
So
gotta
they'll
make
have
their
like a
money.
house. It's like a house inside of a house with like the bare necessities. But every time you keep saying his name is Mole and he was trapped in the catacombs in the darkness, all I can think of is all the Sims mole people trapped the same way.
Oh my god. No, I seriously did, but I'm so mean to mine. Like, I just put them in the room and let them paint, but they don't get any amenities. No food, no nothing. Just pee yourself and paint
Until you die.
until you die. Sometimes they last way longer. I'm like, could you die already? My God, what are you holding
Yeah,
on for?
they made it a little bit more difficult in Sims 4 for
They
you to kill
really
people
did.
unless you have mods
Yeah,
specifically,
I'm like,
but they made it I think they really because it in Sims 1 and 2 it used to be really bad. Like you could
but
kill
you had
your
so
Sims
many
in almost
options.
any in almost any way that you wanted.
Yeah,
No repercussion.
it was great.
And for
I killed so
anyone
many people.
specifically men out there that get freaked out by the way that mostly women play The Sims, I will remind you, okay, that this y'all play roguelites, okay, and y'all play fucking Assassin's Creed and GTA and all of that
Yeah,
shit. So don't look at me
yeah,
sideways about the mole people because that's honestly they're living
yeah.
until they're not, but they're
And
doing things.
some
They have
people
things
are
to do.
giving amenities. So
House in a house.
look, man, when the AI comes for us gamers, we're fucked. They're gonna be like, I know what you did to Chuck. I know what you did
We're
to him.
either no, we're either fucked or they're gonna use us to their advantage and be like, let me pick your brain.
They
What's the
don't need to pick
best
our
torture
brain.
method?
Once they get to the point where they're taking over us, we are
All they
nothing
have
but
to do,
mice to
all that
them.
they would have to do is create a new game that has certain mechanics, and then they have all of the knowledge that they need and how to
Yeah.
torture you.
Mm.
Anyway, okay, so Mole's
Yes.
gone. She heals the lady's arm,
Yeah. And
and
of
then they
course,
realize
we have to go
that
down.
well, and then they realize that all of their fucking bags are lost.
Oh, yes. So
Because
now they're really
they
fucked.
took them out, like
Yeah.
took them off like idiots being idiots, and then yeah,
Yeah.
they
So they're
find
like,
another
fuck.
hole.
But what I love about this, so in this moment, he's like, oh, fuck, we don't have anything. Turn off your lamp. So they're like, conserve the light. So like only one or two
Right? No,
lamps.
there's no batteries. You have no batteries.
Yeah. This is the only scene they turn off the lights. For the rest of the movie, the lights are all on. Just
And
by the way.
nobody's worried. And
Just by
nobody's
the way,
worried.
guys, they quickly shut them off and quickly turn them right back on and said, fuck it.
Continuity.
Yep. So they have to keep going forward. It's the only option. And she's like, there has to be an exit. They had to get out somehow. So keep going down. So we got more secret tunnels. And they get to a really tiny tunnel that literally says, all ye here abandon all hope. You know, the classic, these are the words that are supposedly over the gates of hell, according to Dante's Inferno, which is, but whatever.
Hell fan fiction.
Yeah.
Bible fan fiction.
Yeah, that people started being like, no, that was in the Bible. No, Dante was not a book in the Bible. I'm sorry. Like, so anyways, which I'm not gonna lie, I know there is no other way other than like sit there and die or crawl through the tiny hellhole. But there's a part of me that's like, well, one, the very first thing to pop into my head was that country song. That like the chorus is like, so when you're going through hell, keep on going.
Keep on going. Yeah,
you
okay.
might just get out before the devil even knows you're there.
Right.
And I was like, so that song popped
go
in my
fast.
head, and I was like, just fucking run. But then I'm like, honestly though, I probably would be like, I'm just gonna sit here now. It's cool. Something to kill me pretty soon. So I'll just
or either that or you'll become your own mole
die.
person.
Right? Just gonna sit here. So they crawl through the tiny hole and they're right back in the same room. But everything is now flipped. So you're now
hold on, is that the corridor with all the bones where George starts freaking out?
Mm-mm.
Is that after? Okay.
I think that's a little bit after.
Okay, and, okay. Sorry, there's so many fucking corridors.
I know. And like army crawl.
I start zoning out.
Also, while they're crawling through the tiny hole, she quotes like another verse that's like, I will make you crawl on your bellies to hell or something like that. And as they're having the army crawl, he's like, yeah, I noticed that. Thank you. And that was just like one of those moments, like, we didn't need to say it out loud. We know what's happening.
Right. Quiet voice. Quiet voice.
We're crawling through hell. Thank you. Because of you, by the way, I didn't even want to fucking be, like,
right.
I feel like
drug me back into this shit.
Yep.
I'd rather be in jail. Like, I'd rather be in a Turkish jail.
I will kill you right now. So they're crawling in, they end up in the same chamber, but backwards and reverse, mirror image, whatever. I feel like it also lost continuity here too, because I'm like, mirror image means like your left and right are switched, but they're like, it went like this, right? Because you're in hell.
Yeah, it's like
but then I'm like, that hurts my brain, because then I feel like they never had a moment like at the end of the movie where the world turns, but I feel like in this instant they didn't really have that.
Yeah, and it was just suddenly.
I didn't love it how they tried to pull this off, and I was like, because I feel like they interchanged a lot where they were trying to be like, this is what the room did, but they kept saying this is what it did, and then you're like,
well, and it doesn't help that 9 times out of 10 they don't even comment on it, like the characters themselves.
Yeah.
They don't really comment on it. They don't go, oh, holy shit. Like, if it was me, I'd be like, wait a fucking second. Hold the fuck up. But they don't comment on it.
Yeah. So, in this room, they see a mole. But mole's not moving and talking. And the body of the Knights Templar, they get to that room. It's the Knights Templar room. And mole's just sitting there. And the body's also, like, really decayed now. It was in hell, I guess. Which I was like, doesn't make sense. Why would the body change?
Spookies.
So the girl whose arm was hurt is walking up to Mo, and I'm like, don't touch Mo. Don't mess with Mo.
And they're even yelling at her. They're yelling at her to stay back.
Yeah, they're like, stop it. Be careful. Like, you've literally established you're in hell. Let's not touch things, Let's keep moving forward. Don't even make eye contact. But she does. And Mo proceeds to fucking kill her. Just
bash her fucking face against the steps.
You get a nice camera shot of that because, of course, he dropped the camera. So it just happened to be right in front of her face.
Which the camera is totally fine. It has now been dropped like 10 times. It's been through water. It's been through water like twice. Like, it's totally fine. But yeah, it bashes her face in. So everybody starts freaking out.
And then just goes back and sits down like, whatever. And and Papillon is like, oh my god, bring her back. And she tries with the stone, but she's like, I can't, because she's dead. It can't bring back the dead.
Right.
And they're just like, we have to go. I'm so sorry, but we have to go. And so then now they're crawling through the tunnel with
it's got like, it's a little aqueduct and it's got a little bit of water in it, but there's bones like precariously hatched, like hanging over the thing. And again, nobody thinks to like move the bones out of the way until fucking.
And I will say, this is really bad. I feel like technically, just because, and this is probably such like a snobby thing, but like, you can clearly tell it's like acrylic. You know what I mean? Like, it's a kid on the other side of some acrylic, and it doesn't make sense because you're either gonna. Were you expecting me to believe that he's under ice? Why would ice be there? Are you saying it's super cold? Because once again, your people in sleeves and shit aren't saying anything like that.
Right.
That ice would make sense that we're frozen.
Yeah.
But
like George looks down and there's just like a floating
and the brothers, and he's literally having to hit it too. So you are kind of like, well, what the fuck is this?
He starts yelling about like, oh, it's my brother, and then he starts yelling, get the bones out of the way. First time in the whole fucking movie, and he's trying to like.
But it's like, what is supposed to be there that I'm seeing this brother knock on glass? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's not well done.
But and then she starts screaming at him and telling him it's not real. It's not real.
It's not real. He's dead. Keep moving on. And she pushes him forward, and then they hear more screaming, and they come into like an empty room, and you see the flame light.
It looks like the back rooms.
Yeah.
This room. And it's just big open.
So I'm like,
well,
damn, the flames of hell. And they walk towards it because it's like their only choice. And you find out that Papillon, who had burns, they showed that before. It's his brother burning in a car, because I guess they had been in a car accident together. And the brother grabs Papillon and starts pulling him, and they're trying to stop him.
Well, no, at first he doesn't even grab him. At first, it's he's like, the brother is like in the back of the car and he's just like staring at them, and Papillon is freaking out and he's going, "It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault." And then some unseen force starts pulling Papillon, and he's like a statue, like being pulled towards the car. They're trying to pull him back, and he gets super close, and they almost have him pulled all the way back, and then a flaming hand reaches out and grabs him and yanks him into the car. And then again, it's like the fucking portals. It's like the portal from Harry Potter, a port key. It literally just goes sinks into itself, and then all
his legs are sticking out.
It's his legs sticking out from like the concrete.
So they're like pulling, and I'm like, well, wait, shouldn't we be digging if we are gonna try?
But it's concrete.
Gonna work. Like but that too. Like, so I was just like, okay.
No shoes. It's just bare feet and legs.
Yeah, at this point, it was kind of like, oh, this is how you're gonna get out of hell. And it made me think, because I was like, this is the exact theme of Lucifer, which obviously came out like way after this. So I'm not saying they copied that or anything, but it's just the theme of like, you keep yourself in hell. So if you can let go, if you can be honest about the situation, deal with it, let go, you'll get through hell just fine. It's the people who hold on and keep themselves in hell. And so because he couldn't own up to what he did to his brother, he got dragged in. I guess George is saved because Scarlet was able to push him out of the way of his brother, or the plexiglass was just too thick. Because George was most definitely reacting to his ghost, but nothing happened to him.
Right.
But we won't talk about that. We won't talk. So then, yep. So his legs, they left after period. Now you're down to 3. So now you have Zed, the young kid. Oh yeah. So they get to the hole. Oh, I didn't write that down.
Yeah, they're down to 4. There's Zed.
Brothers in burning car, and then they have to jump down the hole. And this is where
another one with rope. That they shouldn't have, because they don't even have their packs. They don't even have batteries, but they have this fucking rope to get down this random fucking hole.
Well, that's where I was like,
is it another?
Wait a minute.
Is it the same hole?
That's what they're saying. It's the same.
They did.
Hole.
No, they had a rope.
On the other side of it.
100%. There was a rope. So like, is it the same hole, or did
that's
hole
what you're
just
like.
Hell provided the rope? Like they were like, here you go. Here's our one good deed for this whole situation. Here's some rope to get down. Yeah. And this hole is like the other holes had like were like rocks, right?
Yeah.
This hole is like smooth on the side.
Yeah, this is a man-made well for some reason that connects catacomb levels, because the catacombs were really just a hamster cage.
Yeah.
From room to room.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they jump down, they start to hear crying. And they're kind of like, why do I want to call him Billy, and that's not his name.
Benji?
Benji, thank you.
Yeah.
Benji's still at top, and they're like, are you okay, Benji? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, Benji, get the fuck down. Just jump, Benji.
Get the fuck down.
Get out of there, Benji. Get out of there. But no, Benji hears the crying, and he's kind of like, hello? And I was like, no, damn it, Benji. Don't talk to the demons in hell. And then it's one of those naked ladies, and she kind of pops out and pushes.
She has like a baby. Doesn't she? Yeah. She has like a baby in her arms, and she's like, ah!
So you are just kind of like, this is where I was like, wait a minute. Because I feel this is, once again, so I feel like since they got into hell, you've set it up to where they're almost having to deal with a personal trauma. And if they can't deal with that personal trauma, they're going to die. So Banshee couldn't let go of a friend, dies. George couldn't get to his brother, don't worry about his test. And then other guy couldn't let go of his brother, he dies. Are you saying that his greatest regret is a woman and a baby? Like, which also feels very icky.
Yeah, Benji doesn't have any kind of characteristics or any kind of backstory at all.
His history. So then it does become like okay, so if it was just that random, the women downstairs that maybe they freaked him out that bad, the hell was like, well, he was pretty scared of this, let's just use that again. Where's she the baby? Why is there
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Like there's no
but she scares him, and then he falls down the fucking hole.
So he's
Just
dead. So now
flop.
we're down to the 3. Yeah. So now we're down to the 3. Zed, the kid, George, the pissed off
And they
dude, and
somehow have
Scarlet.
the camera down there, but nobody threw it. Like, it didn't fall down the hole or anything. It just had 2
Yeah.
simultaneous shots, top of the hole, bottom of the hole, and then now it's just the bottom of the hole.
Scarlet has it. Don't
Magic
worry.
camera.
Yeah, Scarlet made sure she had it.
Zed
So,
has it now, I think.
yeah, Zed is the main one carrying it. And then I was just like, okay. So remember, this is a vlogging situation. So we're supposed to believe this magic camera on the shoulder. It's just someone. So these people are like this close to each other, right? They're like, you know, one of those moments. Yeah. And while they're this close to each other, you have one going, I just want you to know I do turkey all over again. I love you so much. And it just really made me feel like
trauma bond. It's trauma bond to an abuser.
Well, that, but just think of that moment right now. We're all about to fucking die. I'm in hell. I've seen all of his friends are dead right now. He's now stuck with the 2 strangers who fucking paid him to be there. He has to be like, fuck you guys. Like, and he has to stand there like nose to nose with them as they confess love to each other. Like, I'd be like, to both their heads. Like, no, get serious right now. Get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? So, oh yeah, and this is where they're running through the corridors and they see like hooded figures and they're like, oh shit, hide. And they're like, okay, go. And I'm like, why are you hiding? Like, you're
still with their lights off. Still with the lights on. So it's not, how are you hiding?
Oh yes, and as they're they are at least around this scene, so they're seeing a lot of figures now, and even like face coming out of walls. Yeah. And they are at least, because George has taken lead here, he has found his sack apparently and confessing his love to his emotional abuser. He's at least doing the smart thing of don't acknowledge the demons, just keep fucking moving, right?
Right.
But then they slow down a little bit too much, and one of the demons comes at them, and then the wall people it's wall people, and they just step out and they just take a chunk out of his neck, and you're like, fuck, they ate George.
Yeah, like zombie style.
Yeah. So then the 2 grab. So I will say this is probably the only time for some reason they seem to have had to go, oh shit, we have to think about where the camera would be.
Right.
And they had it to where he fell perfectly and dropped the camera, that his foot caught the rope. So you see this all happening as his foot is dragging the camera.
Right.
And then it kicks off and now the camera's gone. Okay?
Right.
Camera's gone, guys.
Gone.
But we can still see what they're doing. Don't worry about it. So they are now like, shit, get the Philosopher's Stone, heal him. Why is it not working?
Because you're in hell.
Yeah. And then for some reason, even though it worked before, it's not going to work now because apparently she had the wrong stone.
Well, they weren't in hell before. If you go with the continuity of after they exited the first chamber, where they found the stone and they went into the upside down land.
Oh, that's true.
Now they're in hell.
Then.
It worked before they went in hell. Now every time she tries to use it while they're in hell, it's suddenly not working. Yeah. But now she has the bright idea of, I'm going to leave you here, and for some ungodly reason, I'm going to go back through the entire maze with the swiftness of Might Guy.
Pretty much.
She goes up there like she's going so fast. It took them so long to get down here, but she's just like
fuck it. Because she's doing what I said you have to do in the first place. Just fucking run. Just go.
Right.
And she knows where the holes are now, at least. But she's doing it because the rhyme popped in her head and she was like, I have to put this back to get the true Philosopher's Stone. Something about being here in hell. So she fucking gets it, goes, while poor Zed and George are sitting there. They're just gonna wait for her while this is happening. And then Shields has seen, so she has to run back through the water hall where it got loud and shaky. But this time there's blood people pulling her down. And
there's blood everywhere.
Yeah, and in this moment of getting pulled down and having to go through all these, but keep fucking running, she's realizing that the whole thing of like, you have to forgive yourself. Like, don't fear your sins anymore. Just forgive and move on. So she sees her dad hanging. She apologizes to him. He's not.
When she pulls the bag off, it's not her dad, it's her.
Well, that was before she had the
Yeah.
So it's like she sees that, I'm back in the room. I put the stone in, and then this was where I was just like, what? Because it's like, okay, put stone in, get the real stone. What's gonna happen? And then it's just like she sees herself in the mirror, and I'm like, so she's the stone,
She had it inside of her all
right?
along.
That's where I'm like, what
Yeah, it
moment
didn't
is
make
this?
any sense to me either.
So then that's when she runs back out, sees the hanging body again, and she's like, I fear you not. I love you, Daddy.
Yep.
Disappear, Daddy. Runs back, gets to George. How do you heal George? True love's kiss, of course.
Yep. Lay your hands.
Lay
Give him a
your
little
hands and give him a
smooch.
kiss. And then there you go. Healed up. George is alive, looking like what the fuck's happening. But she's still in let's go mode, so it's just fucking run and hurry up, Zed, because you're getting left behind. And then they end up finally back to like the very first hole where they end up having to be like, you just have to jump. And
Yeah, there's no they did not provide them with ropes this time.
yeah. So then they're just like, fuck it, we just have to jump, just fuck it, jump. So they just jump and they land, and when they get their lights back on, they still see the hole, like they have to jump again, and they're like freaking out now. There's like, we're stuck in a loop now. Right. They're like, we have no ropes, we can't get up it. But then he sees the door, because that was the whole thing of how they found Hell's Hole, because Asbia is so below, so there's a door. And so they do that again, and it turns out to be a manhole cover. They're able to push it up. Now they're back. They close up the hole. They're back on the right side up, and Zed's just like,
they all have kind of a hug. They have a huggy moment, and then
it's just kind of like a live moment.
Walks
and
away.
Then Zed pulls away from them, and he kind of looks at him like, you killed all my friends, thanks, and then just kind of walks away.
And yeah, you didn't even get the stone, idiot. Yeah, you don't even have anything.
Yeah, and you are left wondering, like, well, is she still magical? Is she gonna live forever now? Is she the stone? Like, is she Jesus' second coming? What just happened? Like,
absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So I will say, it was entertaining. I can't say it. I give it a 6 out of 10.
I think I gave it a 5 when B asked me earlier. I think I told him it was like a 5.
I don't think it would ever be like if someone was like, oh my god, what movie should I watch? It's probably not going to be on a list or anything, but like,
I don't understand like the horror sphere. I don't understand their obsession with this movie. I don't understand it, because it's on at least 50% of the lists that you see of like, or that I see in the horror space of like must watch horror movies. It's on most of them. It's like on a 1 to 10 list. It's usually on there. And I just don't get it. I don't at all. It wasn't that good. It wasn't scary at all. The part that scared me the most was the idea of being like trapped, where Benji was like literally stuck in the cave. That's the only part that scared me at all. It didn't make any sense from a story perspective. The characters sucked. The practical effects were garbage. Like, why do people like this movie?
I gotta say, for me, okay, if you're a layman watcher of movies, you're probably gonna love this movie. I could totally see it.
You might like it, yeah.
Yeah, if you're the type of person who doesn't notice where cameras are, and us talking about that made you feel like, bitches, calm down, you probably love this movie. You probably won't even notice, dude. Like,
if you regularly say in your head it's just a movie, this is a fine movie for you.
This is for you.
For people who watch a lot of movies and TV, this is not it.
When you're the one, if you're an actual fan of like, and you do notice sound stuff and film stuff, and you're gonna hate this movie. It's gonna give you the biggest fucking headache in the world. So I did feel like they got me sometimes. Like, they had my anxiety up a little, where I was gonna be like, okay, well, what's next? They piqued my interest enough for me to keep going with this movie, where like Tombstone made me want to be like, fucking end, please.
Yeah. Tombstone made me want to rip my face off.
Like, there's been a couple of our movies that I was just like, fucking right, okay, can we just like not? And maybe I feel like this didn't make me regret my decision. It's a fun movie. So yeah, it's a solid 6 out of 10. You'll have a good time watching it. It'll be all right.
I think I think the only movies in the ones that we have actually done that I have rated higher than like a 6 was like the Temple Grandin movie and the autistic Benedict Cumberbottom movie. Those are the only two movies I have actually enjoyed out of this entire string of movies that we've done are the ones that are
Look,
predominantly autistic people.
that makes me sad because I keep picking up a bunch of movies. Like we've
Well, I mean,
done.
it's not your fault. It's just
No,
I
but
feel
I
like
feel like
this.
you're just like fucking. What has she sent me now? Because I've only
What
been
else?
successful in entertaining you twice.
Didn't we do the Scream movie? I
We
can't
did do
remember.
Scream.
Okay, I
Yeah,
do enjoy Scream.
we
It's
did
just
do
like a
Scream.
classic. I
And I
do
feel like you
enjoy
enjoyed
Scream.
Freddy too.
Freddy, yeah, I mean, I like classic horror. You know what I mean? Like
You give me 4.
80s, 90s horror. I enjoy
Yeah,
that. Yeah, but like newer horror, I am so specific and particular because you can't scare it's so difficult to scare me. And like I feel that's your one job.
that's
If you're making a horror movie, your one job is to freak me out, to scare me.
yeah,
And most of them just don't. I love watching them though. Watching them is fun as hell. Like we watched one
yeah.
this weekend, didn't scare me at all, but we've been B has been coming up to me and asking me if I said hello or goodnight to the trees all week because of that movie. It was decent, but still, I just like there's very few horror movies that I would be like, "Oh yeah, 8 out of 10." And there's
Yeah,
almost none that I would go as high as a 9 out of 10. It's just I'm a harsh critic.
that was well. That should be hard. Like you shouldn't have 50, 11 films up in your 10
That's
out of
what
10
I
list. There just
say.
shouldn't be, especially if you're talking about. Okay, so let's go history.
Yeah.
Was this based on a true story? Well,
Eh.
actually, kind of. I mean, storyline wise, yes, we obviously have a shit ton of liberties taken, but the catacombs do exist, guys.
Well, yeah.
That's true. They
Yeah.
got that right.
And there's lots of bones in them too, so they got that
There's
right.
and there are bones in there. So, so first I was just like, let's just do some basic catacomb history, and so basically, you if you go early enough, France in the beginning was mining limestone to build up their houses and cities and stuff. Okay, so that started in like 13th century. As the cities are getting bigger and stuff, by the 17th century, you now have a shit ton of people, meaning you have a shit ton of dead people. And
And a
it's starting
shit
to
ton of
stink.
like
Yeah.
excrement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have anything to
But you
deal
know,
with their waste.
Europeans, they didn't do that bath stuff. So
Not as
the
often as they should.
city smells horrendous because of the amount of people. So King Louis is like, yeah, okay, let's move the bodies outside the city. But the church is like, nah, that's sacrilegious, bro. We can't move the bodies. And so this little back and forth in true government fashion goes on for like a decade. And then finally a rain happens and like a wall breaks and a bunch of bodies go flowing out in like 1780. And that makes the church go, yeah, all right,
Maybe we
maybe we
should
should move
do
the bodies.
something.
We should probably move the bodies. So that's when they moved them to they decided to put them in the catacombs or where these old mine shafts were. And it took them what was it? 6 years. It took them 6 years to move 6 to 7 million bones or people. So more than that in bones wise, but people. And they've put them and they've stacked them by cemetery. So you have your clusters and that's your cemeteries. And then sometimes they just got bored and decided to put a jaunty little picture up and make patterns and stuff. Nobody really knows why. They just were like, I think it'd be cool if I make triangles with these skulls, you know? And then they also have these sculptures of like men coming out of the wall and stuff. And you would think, oh, that probably happened once they thought about how great tourists. No, those were done before the catacombs were even a thing. It was just because
Because
they were in these
humans are
mines.
funny. Because
Yeah,
humans are hilarious.
this one guy, and it's one guy. He was part of the military. When he got out of the military, he found the mines, and he was like, "I'm just gonna fucking make some art." And he made like a whole like scenery of the kingdom. man coming out of wall, like it was just limestone. So he
Humans
just
are weird, man.
made some art, and then hundreds of years later, maybe not hundreds,
Now
but like
you have
100 years.
conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just that's where I am. Like, do evil people exist? Absolutely. Has the government shown to plan things? Fuck yeah. But the vast majority, I think, is just random people
Humans
doing
being weird.
crazy weird
Yeah.
things. An oopsie happened, or like this is random guy found limestone, decided to make art, and then when the kingdom was like, we gotta put our dead body somewhere, I mean, he was long gone, and they were just kind of like, watch the art, I guess, and just started putting.
Imagine being like one of the first people down there and like coming around a corner and be like, ah, like
Yeah, like,
there's a dude
what
coming
the
out.
heck? Who did this? So,
Imagine the blessings. You know, the priests went down there and started blessing shit. They were like,
oh,
demon.
I'm sure. So, let's see, stack the bodies. So that's pretty much it. They kept doing that for a while. Then the revolution happened, and it kind of became practice to just bury bodies there also, like where a person dies, straight to the catacombs. So, and
Into
then
hell with ye.
yeah, in 1860, they were like, stop using the catacombs, and I couldn't really find a why they stopped using the catacombs. There was
Well,
like
it probably was really dangerous. I mean, it's still
probably that
dangerous
too.
today. It's probably, I mean, I'm sure as it started to fill up with bodies, not only did it become like structurally dangerous, but that should be around the time where they're really starting to understand germs. So
That's
then
true.
you're going down there with all these decaying bodies underneath the ground in like with no ventilation or anything.
I bet
So
you. Ooh. I
yeah.
wonder how bad that smelled. I didn't even think about that.
Well, I don't know how hot France typically gets, but underground tends to be way cooler than
It
above
does because
ground.
people get hypothermia down there.
Yeah, so I'm sure it probably didn't smell great, but it's probably not as bad. It probably smelled worse when they weren't putting them down there, as
Yeah,
far
but
as
you know,
up on top where the bodies were just rotting in the sun and the everything. But still, fester is just a festering
yeah, but they
of
did also when the churches moved all their bones in there. I mean, they moved bones from like hundreds of thousands of years ago. Like all the old bones went
yeah.
into the
They were
catacombs.
just holding on to
So
them.
it's
That is
pretty
so
cool.
funny to me, where the church was
Yeah.
just like, "These are mine." Like they're a dragon, like hoarding. It's just like bones of random people. I wonder how many times I I just thought of this. I wonder how many times someone has gone down there and picked up a slither of a bone and then convinced the Catholic Church that it was a piece of somebody important and it's just a random bone from the
It's
catacombs.
scary.
Because like there's not a lot of places to find just unattended bones anymore.
Oh yeah.
But that would have been I now that's the total headcanon now. Some of the
Okay.
bones in reliquaries are just
No,
catacomb bones.
this happens modern day. Okay, because I was just listening to my favorite podcast is Time Suck, and he was doing one. Anyways, a skeleton made an appearance, and it was one of those old medical student skeletons.
Mhm.
Well, back in the 60s, and I think even into the 70s, those were
Mhm.
actual skeletons.
Yeah,
Those were
they were
people, and
real
the
bones.
doctors bought them. So they
Right.
belonged to doctors. And this one guy wrote
But
in
they
saying his
bought
dad
them
was a
from
doctor.
grave robbers. People were stealing bones and stuff and selling
Well, that
them.
did happen too, so they could sell them to the doctors.
Right.
I don't think most doctors were grave robbing, but they were kind of like, yeah, I'll give you
Well,
a penny.
that's what I meant. A
Yeah,
grave
yeah, yeah.
robber would go out and steal a bunch of bones and
Yeah.
shit and then
Well, I
sell
think
it.
it also came down to like a seems disrespectful type thing, where people were like, and then plastic became a thing, so it's kind of like we don't need to use real ones anymore, guys. Let's put
Right.
these away. Well, so these doctors just took them home, and he said his dad still has the skull of it, and he doesn't want to throw it out or anything because the thing is, that's a human skull. If you just go out and throw it in a ditch, somebody's going to find that, and then cops are going to get involved, and then it's kind of
Right.
like
And that's
a
one of those
murder
gray
investigations are
areas.
happening. Like,
Right. Well, and that's one of those legal gray areas because now it is totally illegal to own human
oh yeah,
bones. Like you cannot own human bones. And a lot of places, um, you cannot own certain animal bones. You have to go through the proper channels to buy them. That's why there was a huge hubbub about probably like every 6 months, an artist somewhere gets caught illegally sourcing bones
Mm,
for their art. It's usually a jewelry maker or someone selling on the internet.
yeah.
I know, what was it, like 6 or 7 years ago now? It was a while ago. Somebody got caught on Tumblr because they were in possession of human bones, and they
What?
kept telling people, yeah, they kept telling people that they were ethically sourced, but there is no way to ethically
No.
source human bones in the well, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the United States, there's no way for you to legally source and ethically source human bones. And they got into a lot of trouble for it. So like if he owns that old skull, I'm sure if he has the paperwork and he's able to prove where it came from and stuff, the best thing for him to do is just to hold on to it, because you don't want to get into that
That just
legal
for your
battle.
grandkid one day. Just like,
Like, lock it in a box with the paperwork somewhere so that like it's all together in one place, because
yeah.
yeah, if the wrong person gets wind of that, it'll kick up a whole legal shitstorm that could
Oh
wind
yeah.
up with him being arrested, not charged, because if he has the documentation, then he can prove it. You can't charge him for anything, but still, you
But
would
it's
go through
like,
that
does
whole
he have the
process.
documentation?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Probably not.
what did you hold on to that? Like, how? Uh,
Yeah.
that's a whole fucking mess. So yeah, that's something that I would never tell anyone. I would put it somewhere, and I would like write a note for when I died of like, I don't know what to do with this bones. I don't know what to do with the skull, but that's the later generations. Y'all can figure
No, I'm going
kick
out
the
to, I'll
can
keep
down the
it
road.
until I'm old. But just so that I don't like screw over a grandkid or something, I'm going out back. And I'm gonna like, not out back, but like out somewhere, not my yard. And I'm gonna lightly bury it. So I know it's gonna be found. Like eventually the skull's gonna come up and someone's gonna have to deal with like that in their
But
yard.
not me.
But
I'm
not
not
me.
dealing with
I'm
it.
long gone. So you can't put that on me. So
Cover it
just
in
my
bleach. Get rid of
just
all your fingerprints.
does it matter? I'm dead. This is my last doing. I've crawled out of my bed. Oh, I've
Right,
got
but
my grandkid to do
if
it,
your
but I'm
goal
dead.
is if your goal is to not have your family have to deal with it either, then yeah, you
That's true.
absolutely need to clean off your
That's
fingerprints
true.
and shit.
But you have to think this skull, this person would have to have died decades ago. So even if my kid did have it, there's no way they could pin like a murder on them, because it's just like, you couldn't have killed someone in 1960. You didn't even
No, but
exist, you
they
know?
could try to go back into your they could try to say like great grandpappy. With
Which you
try
do.
to
Albert
link
Fish is
them
on
to a
my
bunch of
family
shit.
line. I can be like, it passed it down.
You're right.
So, anyways, so then I went through and I did try to look up some of the stuff they actually talked about, like in their dialogue. So
Mhm.
first thing he brought up, the Bier de Inferno, the gates of hell collapsing.
Mhm.
Not quite. So in 17, it was like 1776, and I was kind of like, it weirds me out that that date has any other importance to it other than what American importance is.
Yikes.
But apparently, the street. So obviously, Paris sits on top of catacombs. So collapsing happens. And this definitely happened in the 1700s, and that street went down. Now, from any of the articles I read, they didn't talk about any deaths happening, just that it was kind of like, fuck, the street fell in. But I don't know if that's just bad bookkeeping or that a better article would have been in French, but I can't read that, you know. So as far as I know, it's just the street fell in, they fixed it, and those two buildings still stand there. And they were actually just built to kind of collect taxes or be a toll of some kind. And they were only used
Mm.
like a very short period of time, but they're still there. You can visit them, and the
Ancient
streets
toll
there.
roads.
Yeah, it's kind of like an ancient toll road, pretty much. Yep. And but it did. There was another little town or little neighborhood that did collapse. And so, like I said, obviously, it's called the Floating City. They're on top of tunnels. So a entire town did fall, or neighborhood, not town, neighborhood did fall, and 22 people did die in that incident, and that was in 1960, 1961. and 22 people did die on that, but it wasn't on that road. It was like on a little town, more on the outskirts of Paris, which is how big the catacombs are. You know, the catacombs are 10 times bigger than Central Park, which I thought was a weird. So I'm just like 10 times bigger than Central Park. Shouldn't that just be a state? Can't you just say like the size of Rhode Island or something like that? You know, like.
Well, I think it's like how the people do it with football fields. It just gives you a frame of reference,
Yeah.
right? Because if you say, "Oh, it's as big as Rhode Island," I don't know how fucking big. I know it's not that big, right? Like,
I guess that's true. So then I went into, well, you know, they say the catacombs are haunted, that you can hear voices down there, especially if you're down there after midnight. This is why you don't go down the dark hallways.
duh, there's all these
Like,
fucking bones in there.
Yeah. And so of the like most famous people disappearances, you have in, oh my god, I didn't write down the date. I want to say it was like 2000 something. 3 teenage girls got lost down there for 3 days. They did get hypothermia, but they were okay. Then you have, I'm gonna mess up his name, Filiberto Espartia, and he died in 1793. He was a doorkeeper who just fucking disappeared. 11 years later, they found his body by a staircase in the catacombs. And they just don't know what happened to him. So they just buried him right there where they found him. And it was just like he was right next to an exit. So it was just kind of like, how lost was he that he didn't even realize he was near an exit? And then this is just the dangers of how dark that really is. If you have no light, you get easily get lost. And then there is a tale of a woman named Masha who was at a party in the catacombs and wandered off, and they found her body. This was in 2005. They found her a couple days later, dead from hypothermia. But when I was reading some of the articles, it kind of came out like no one's ever actually like fact checked this. They just keep saying the story over and over again. So Masha's a maybe. She's kind of more of a tale. And then, of course, the most infamous and the one this movie was more based off of is the Lost Man footage of the 1990s. And this is footage of a man kind of like exploring the catacombs. And then all of a sudden, he just gets kind of spooked and starts running, and then drops the camera, and it's just, and then years later in the 2000s, someone finds this dusty ass camera when they're exploring the catacombs, takes it home and finds this man's footage. So it's just kind of like assumed he died and these are his last actions, but I'm like, you can't even guarantee that. And there is just a lot of speculation on this tape because there's no proof of anything. This tape just kind of like showed up, so you're kind of like, totally fake, could be a dude running through the catacombs, who knows.
Damn, what if that tape turned out to be like a Ring situation? What if people watched it and then they like,
I just watched it like 3 times. It's very short. You can find
that, see, that's the movie I want to see. Give it the Ring treatment, make people find this tape, and then when they find the tape, they have the inexplicable urge to go down to the catacombs. And then some fucked up shit happens.
Oh, I did find another story that was really weird. That it was kind of like, so apparently, because like we say, a lot of the catacombs completely illegal to go down. So it has its own police force that patrols the catacombs to make sure nobody's living down there or visiting where they're not supposed to be. And of course, people visit there where they're not supposed to be all the fucking time. They said that they heard a dog barking. So they went towards it and they found like an entire fucking setup, like curtains, beds, movies, like TV, like set the fuck up. And they're like, what the hell is happening? And a dog. So it was only like 2 officers on, so they go back to get the force because they're like, it has to be a bunch of people to get all this stuff down here and stuff. By the time they come back, all of it's gone. Not a single sign of it. Like, and it's just kind of like a what the fuck moment. Oh, except for a note that said, don't chase. And it was just like, what? So that was weird. But that's all I had. Oh, then I believe it.
I believe it 100%. There's a whole colony of people living down there.
Oh,
Like, you can't
probably.
convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
And then, of course, the name we all know from this movie, Nicholas Flamel, is a real person. He's not just from Harry Potter. He was born in 1330. He was a shop runner. He married a very wealthy widow. They were known for philanthropy. And the best I could find is obviously everything around him is a myth, but they think it just started because he would live until his 80s. And that just was kind of rare back then. So people just started telling stories about him. But that he didn't, he had a very loose connection to alchemy. Like, he could have, I guess. They're just kind of like, maybe, but they don't really, it's not like huge, like, oh yeah, this is definitely why this myth is around him. It just,
I feel like people latch onto it just because his name is so cool to say.
Yeah.
Like Nicholas Flamel. Like, yeah. Most of the information that we have in Nicholas Flamel is just like pure folklore.
Yeah, he did. Which I find so crazy. Like, if it is just something as simple as like in medieval times, 1300s, these people just saw an 80-year-old man and just started making shit up about him. Like, they're just fucking bored, you know?
Well, I mean, at that time,
about good old Saint Nick over there, but he fucking paid God to stay on this earth that long, you know? Like, just start making up stories, and then people just start writing shit down, and then it's just like you just end up in a mythos just because you're old, or like.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that time, it was totally abnormal to live that long. Like, being like 50 was old, especially as a man, because you were expected to join the military or do like actual physical labor, like, unless you were nobility. And even then, for nobility, they typically died early because they didn't know how to fucking take care of themselves. They all had syphilis. So yeah, I could understand seeing like an actual old person during that time and being like, "Hey, yo, he's a witch." Like, he found the goblet of life. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I could get that. But it is funny to think about the fact that he was just like, just some guy.
Dude living life. No, bad guy.
Just some guy, and now we have this whole,
dude.
And now he's in fucking Harry Potter and doesn't get residuals
and now you're
off
just
of his name being
used
like
a fucking wizard. Like, can you imagine, man? Like,
I hope, man, that would be the best thing ever. After I die, and like, if you believe in an afterlife, to just be like watching shit pan out, and for me to have been so fucking weird, like such a weird person that people started making up folklore about me. Like, that's the kind of legacy I want to leave behind. Yes, I am totally the old decrepit eccentric witch in the woods. Don't come to my house. Like that.
Absolutely.
That I would be so happy in the afterlife to know that that's how people remember me.
Right? Like the lady from not last week, the week before, Bathsheba from the Conjuring.
Yeah.
She just stabbed the baby in the head with a needle.
I don't want you to remember. Yeah, I don't supposedly stabbed a baby in the head with a needle. There's no confirmation of that.
There's not, but she also beat her slaves, so
yeah.
I'm gonna go. She probably did stab a baby in the head.
Yeah, don't remember me for anything like that. Make up funny things. Not. But I am pretty chaotic, but I lean more towards chaotic good than
you don't want to be
chaotic evil.
Needling babies.
I might actually start haunting people if that happens.
Anytime you say her tail, you get poked with a needle.
Yeah, stab your eyes out.
All right, that was this week's fun ditty. And okay, I would say I was disappointed because I could have swore I really loved the Ghoul Boys, the BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really love it. And I thought they went down to the Paris catacombs, but they didn't. They were in the London ones, and I was like, it's still a really good episode. It's super funny, but I was disappointed. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do the catacombs, and I'm gonna watch that episode because I like that show. But they didn't.
Yeah, I feel like the French government would probably be like, no thanks, we don't want that smoke. Like, we don't want.
I will say that's
coming out.
Like, for the catacombs, definitely are like worldwide known to be a creepy as fuck place.
Right. But they have a pretty tight hold on it.
Yeah. Paris has done a good job of like, there's not a lot of actual like ghost lore. You know what I mean? Where a lot of pieces are like, oh, you're gonna find Mistress Pierre. Like this, you're not. You can. There's the lore of you hear voices. There's the lore of you're gonna get lost. But then there's just the very real bones are creepy. You're gonna get hypothermia. People die of hypothermia. It's dark, so you will get lost. And like that's, but there's no actual ghost stories. Like there's nobody, you know, at least they're
Right.
not the top finds. I mean, sure, people do ghost hunt down there, but you know what I mean? Like when you type in other things, that's like the
I
very first thing. They're haunted, they're haunted. But this isn't like that. It's just come see our historical area that we did something weird in, you know?
Yeah, I think that's like a PR stunt. That's probably why
Yeah.
they wouldn't let someone like Brian and what's his face go down there and do like a ghost show on it, because
Yeah.
it's not, you don't, like I said, you don't want people, other production companies and other random YouTubers
Oh,
and people to come out and then this be a hotbed for like that kind of activity. You know,
yeah.
not saying it would create a hotbed for supernatural activity, saying a hotbed for like touristy visits, and then that would mean more people getting lost and more
I
deaths
want to
and all of
say
that.
that the movie was filmed in the catacombs, or they did a
Probably a
really good
portion.
job of um copying all the graffiti that's up there, because the very, I know I was watching some documentaries where people were actually walking through the catacombs talking about them, and I was like, well, hold on, that's like the hole they went down, and like that's a lot of that graffiti looked a lot like what's in the movie. So I do think they filmed some of the movie in like actually in
Possibly, or they
yeah.
just use the documentaries to match it up, you know what I mean? Like the, because I know there's photographic evidence and like
Oh
obviously
yeah, yeah, yeah,
people have, historians and archaeologists have gone down there and stuff, but yeah, I don't
yeah, and
think
they
that the
still go down there.
French, yeah, I don't think that the French government wants the kind of people that
They
ghost
don't want that
hunting
kind of smoke,
would
man.
attract. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I don't blame them for that, dog. Like that's why when people hear ghost stories from like Appalachia and they say, "Oh, I want to go ghost hunting," like in anywhere in Appalachia, I'm like, "No, you fucking don't. No, you fucking don't." It makes me so angry, so irritated because I'm like, trust me, not even just the supernatural element, but just how fucking dangerous
Oh yeah,
it is, physically dangerous. Like, no, you don't. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't blame the French government at all for being like,
You don't
no
want
thanks. Plus,
a bunch of crazies coming.
how religious that country is, they
Oh
would
yeah,
the church probably sees it as like a religious
absolutely.
landmark, you know, it's a resting place. You don't want people, it's not like fucking New Orleans where you can go walk around all the different
Right.
fucking graveyards and pee on them and shit. Like they
Well, they
don't want
locked
that.
down their one graveyard with like a bunch of their famous because people kept fucking destroying shit. So now that is locked down. It used to be open,
Yeah. Yeah.
but people ruin shit all the time. Damn it.
Which I mean, some of them deserve to be pissed on. So like, that's why I'm more like chaotic neutral. Where I'm like,
Okay, but while they may have deserved it, does the poor keeper of the stone deserve to have to clean your pee off every morning? You know what I mean?
that's why
Like
you
that
piss on
person's
the
gone.
grass.
But that's what people weren't being respectful about it. You
Yeah,
know what I
it's
mean?
true.
Like they're getting it on the stone and shit.
Yeah. Then you have to clean it off. Yeah.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
you're
that
just
makes sense.
punishing some strange dude who just needs a job, you know?
Don't come in frame. She is so bored now that school is out. It's day 1 of summer break. Actually, day 2 for her because she didn't go to the very last day. They had like a half day. She didn't go. So
My
it's like day
boys,
2.
they've been out for a whole week now, but we didn't even go out. They've really been off for like 2 weeks because that their whole last week was like all half days. I was like, I'm not getting. Do you want to
Oh,
go? I'll let you if you want to go. So Maxwell
that's what
went
I
for like
told her the
one of the
last
days
day.
because he wanted to go. But other than that, I was like, don't even worry. And Orion was like, I don't have. No, I don't want to go to school. Orion does not like going to school. So he was just
Yeah.
like,
I
no.
would have let her stay out more the last week, but she already had like 10 missing days because we had went like on a trip
Yeah.
um last fall. So like she already had one. I had the funeral to go to last fall too. So like she already missed a shit ton of days. So but it was, I don't understand. So they took their computers like 2 weeks before the end of school. So I was like, every day she'd come home, I'd be like, "What the fuck did y'all do all day?" And she'd be like, "Nothing."
Nothing.
And I'm
Just
like,
watching movies.
"Why the
That's why I
fuck?"
was like, not, don't worry. I'm
Yeah,
not
they
getting up early.
watched.
I don't gotta get up early.
Well, I just wanted her out of the house. I didn't want to feed her. She can hear me from the kitchen. I didn't want to feed her. I pay the school to feed her.
All right. Goodbye, everybody, because this
Yeah,
has
bye.
nothing to do with the movie.